In my experience, Gage, if you take any situation you go through, good or bad, and you ask yourself, what are three sustains? What are three good things? And what are three improves? What could you improve upon? You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with that.
As a basic rule of thumb.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I like that. I love the accountability of like, you know what, whatever the situation, I'm just going to learn.
Yeah.
And my fault or not, I'm just going to see how I can get better. And
that's all we can do in life, though. We are programmed to constantly be learning something.
Literally. We're live. You just keep going. We're just
if we are...
if you want to put that bag a little off to the side.
If we don't try and learn from cause and effect in our lives, we're growing stagnant, kind of like what you and I were talking about outside. And when you get stagnant, I mean, what happens to that water? It gets nasty, it gets murky, you know, the life in there starts fading away and dying, and I mean, it just gets really, really bad really quick. Nobody wants to go fish in a fishing hole that's all stagnant and got algae in it, you know, like, you want clean water, you want fresh, you want to see all that life just popping off.
Circulation, movement,
exactly.
Energy in motion, yep.
Exactly. So when you start looking at the situations in life, both good and bad, you start seeing like where you can improve, what you can do. It's like, you know, when I'm at work, you know, when you would come in for the coffees and stuff, I used to tell you all the time, our interaction can either make or break your day. And I'm smart enough to know that. So if you're having a bad day and I offer just a little bit of insight, or you're short a couple of bucks and I can help you out, I know that can make or break a day. Because I've been there. I know what that's like. You know, and working in customer service, that really helps out a lot, you know, when you can actually be that person for somebody. You know, I have customers coming in all the time trying to pay me back for something that I did. And it's like, no, I want you to pay it forward. I don't want you to pay it back. I want you to pay it forward. Because there's thousands of other people out there that, you know, are having a hard time and they're down on their luck. Don't give it back to me. I'm good. I'm kosher where I'm at. And if I'm not kosher, I know the universe is going to provide for me one way or another. It always has.
It always does.
It always has. Especially like when I was smoking cigarettes and I'd be out of a cigarette, you know, and fiending for that cancer stick. Man, I really wish I had a cigarette right now, you know? And just a little bit of good karma that I generated, you know, XYZ amount of time ago, it would eventually come back to me. Just got to be patient. And you got to tell yourself to be patient. It's easier said than done.
I want to get into that. What advice do you have for someone who's in that be patient period? That lonely period? That period of I have to give it my all, and I have no support, no proof or evidence, no, you know, let's call it maybe financial gain from all my efforts, or, you know, I'm not seeing the momentum. Basically starting at rock bottom with nothing. And the advice that you're giving, and a lot of people give, is be patient and keep going. But that is the hardest part, is I can understand to be patient, but now I have to actually do it.
The very first thing that I would offer for advice is formulate a plan. Sit down, figure out what you want, where you want to go, what you want to accomplish. You got all this time on your hands, right? Why not formulate a plan? Okay. Then after you formulate that plan, you got to ask yourself the hard questions. What am I going to do that? How am I going to succeed? What's going to happen if my attempts fail? How am I going to pick myself up? What kind of attitude am I going to have? Because you can't have that attitude of everything's always hunky-dory, okay. We're human. We're very human.
Very.
Like, I have my moments worse than everybody else. I'll be the first one to admit it. But I'm also smart and intelligent enough to say, hey, I screwed up. You know? Especially being a parent. You got to own up to that stuff. Like, if your kid's doing something that's annoying you and you find yourself snap at them, be sure to turn around right away and be like, okay, look, it's not you. Yes, this situation kind of added to it, and that was like the final straw that broke the camel's back, but it's not you. I love you very much. This is why I'm frustrated. You'd be surprised what you can learn from a kid.
Oh, I think kids are the wisest.
You could be
Kids
very
and
surprised,
yeah.
you know. My 5-year-old Cohen, he's teaching me stuff all the time. All the time. And it's really awesome when you can just kind of like sit back, especially in those moments where like you're trying to be patient and you're stagnant, you know, and you're trying to formulate that plot and you're figuring out like the plans that you want to make and where you want to go. Like if you step back and you look at the viewpoint from a kid and realize that not everything's that serious.
I literally have to write that down.
Look at life from the lens of a child. Look through the child. I love that. I love that.
I feel like just thinking in that way, I had a lot of answers. They're just wise. I think children are, in a lot of ways, the most connected to God and the universe. I mean, fresh from the womb of the Spirit, son. And it's like they come and they teach, and they remind us of who we are and who we are at like the root of us, and are able to see past the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
They almost don't even see them. It's
Yep.
just like, but this is how it's supposed to go for you.
Yep.
It's like, oh, shit, when you put it like that.
Right. Well, and it's very interesting too because they don't have a lot of the situations that we have arise, you know. So what we might consider like big fish in the pond, going back to that analogy, they're actually little goldfish. Okay, so Dad's upset about this, but it's not that serious. Here, let me distract you with something. Get your mind off that. And then when you get done with that interaction and you go back to that situation, you have a fresher like energy and viewpoint on what needs to be done. You can think more clearly. I find myself doing that quite a bit, especially when I get done interacting with Cohen. I had this one problem. Okay. What would Cohen do? Is he going to get mad and throw a fit and be all upset and angry? Yeah, probably temporary. But is it going to make or break his day? No, because he's going to get distracted with something else that's shiny. So what can I get distracted with that's shiny too? We can't focus on all negative. Like, we want to because it's negative, and we as humans, we don't like negative. So that's why we gravitate to it. But if we also focus in on the positive too, like, it's not all that bad.
Thank you. I needed to hear that.
I appreciate you, man. We've always played really well off of each other. And that's what I love about our friendship, you know, is like, yeah, we went months without really talking, but we picked it up like it was nothing.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. And it just goes to show like that's a genuine relationship with somebody else, a genuine connection with another human being. You've seen me at some of my my worst, my lowest. You've also seen me on some of my highest peaks too. And I mean, I am who I am at the end of the day, and I don't change for nobody, and I don't put on a front for nobody. That's not to say that I don't pull the I'm fine when I'm not fine,
yeah,
but
that. You're real.
I can only be real. You know, there's no point in putting up that false facade.
I don't think everyone understands that. I think that's actually a lot harder. It's like being patient. It's easier to say it, but harder to do it. So how do you bravely be yourself
Mm-hmm.
amidst a bunch of, in a world where people are scared to be themselves? How do you do that? Because you can feel when you're being yourself
Mhm.
and you're making someone else uncomfortable because they've never been around that kind of like, I don't have influence on him. He doesn't care what I say. Like he's a truly independent person, and some people like just don't know how to operate around that. I've noticed.
Understand that you're not going to please everybody. So stop trying to please everybody. The only person that you can really please is yourself. So the sooner that you make amends with that, I think, is that's the first step. You gotta realize that when you're alone with your thoughts, that's just you. Like, so why fake it around everybody else? Let people see who you really are. Let people in. Let people learn from you. We all could learn from each other if we just let each other.
Yeah. And when you're real and you're authentic, you allow yourself to learn from yourself. You don't hide the lessons. You don't put makeup on it. You
Mhm.
allow it as raw as it is. And I think that's the real reason why a lot of people don't, is because then the floodgate opens and then it gets ugly and then it's not fun.
Yeah.
And it's easier to kick the can down the road and be like, no, I'm good, and I'll just kind of do what everyone else is doing. And how are you doing? Oh, I'm good. Life is great. And it's like, I think the words you speak are so important, and if life isn't great and things aren't okay, you need to be upfront about that. Maybe you don't have to tell everyone, but at least tell yourself and be like, hey, actually, this is going on, and it's really affecting me, and I need to do something about it, and not just, yep, I'm good. Because
Right.
eventually that snowballs into a bigger situation.
You know, one of my first AA sponsors, who I really wish well, unfortunately, the partnership did not mesh very well. We were very separate entities entirely, and we couldn't see past our differences, if you will. But one of the wisest things he ever said to me is, sometimes it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay to have those bad days. But when you're having those bad days all the time, you got to really look in the mirror and ask yourself, why am I having all these bad days? What could I do differently to improve these days? Is it a me thing? Or is it an environment thing? Is it a group of people that I'm running around that their negative influence is affecting my day? Like, what can I do?
That's where I'm at right now. Is that deciding period of like, what am I accountable for?
Mm-hmm.
And what is environmental? What is amplifying me? And what is doing the opposite? Just in a deep reflection. And I think some of my own frustration is like, for context, I just woke up today. I was telling Dain about it, but just pretty frustrated and ready to be more. I'd like to see more of my goals in the present moment,
Mm-hmm.
here and achieved. And I'm just at a point where it's like, that's all I want. And it's all I'm going to focus on until it happens.
If you hyperfixate on the end game more so than the journey or the path to get there, that's all you're going to fixate on, though.
I agree. I'm listening. This.
You're good. If you don't take the time out to enjoy the ride that it takes to get to your destination, what was the point of even getting in the car in the first place?
I love that. And that's what I'm trying to decipher. I love my life. I love who I am. I feel good in my body. I feel good with who I am and where I'm going and why I'm here. And I have answers for those important questions. But it's when the crossroad is unclear. When it's like, God, is the relationship broken or does it need fixed? And you're in that weird, painful patience period of like, And that's something I'm learning is don't react. Just be patient long enough to find the real answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurts.
Well, 90% of what we want to do in a situation comes from reacting, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to try and elaborate best I can.
I'll show you my favorite thing about
So let's say you're going through a really tough breakup, okay? Obviously there's going to be a grieving process to that. But what's going to make or break that situation, whether or not it's going to be a peaceful like separation or if it's going to get ugly quick, it's your reaction. Yeah, you can air out your grievances. It's also upon delivery too. You can have the best intentions and the best words and want to say to the person, express to the person, I'm sorry, that you're hurt. But if you do it in a manner that's angry, they're not going to have the best reaction back. If you calmly explain it to them, you'll find that you guys can be civil to each other and still find some sort of common ground. And that's where a lot of like relationships end up becoming like, we never talk anymore. Well, yeah, because both of you guys decided to burn that bridge while both of y'all were sitting there on the bridge, and then you guys both pissed on the ashes. So of course there's not going to be any common ground. Of course you guys aren't going to come together and be able to be friendly with one another. Y'all both did sabotage it. And it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
It always takes two to tango.
And it wasn't
man.
overnight. You guys let that. Yeah.
You know?
Where'd you gain all this wisdom?
Life. I've been knocked down so many times, and I've been at those crossroads so many times asking myself, which way do I go from here? How am I going to get there? Like, between that and I would attribute the village that helped raise me, because they're all very real individuals. They're all very insightful and intuitive, you know, and they're quick to think before react. You know, like, the person who I call dad isn't even biologically my father. He took me in when I was still in diapers, okay? He didn't have to do that. He chose to do that. He was my mom's best friend. They had a strictly platonic relationship, you know, and growing up with him and being accepted by all of the members of his family, like, I can hit up any one of his nieces or nephews or brothers or sisters, you know, and I could sit there and say, yeah, but I'm not of you guys. They're gonna tell me, knock that nonsense off. Yes, you are, because we took you in as you were. And there's a lot of love in my corner, you know, and it's all unconditional. You know, I've made some great mistakes in my life. I mean, like we were discussing, and I was very open, and I'm very open with it. Having a second DUI at the beginning of 23, that really sucked. And I had to do a lot of soul searching, and I had to come to the terms with, I do legitimately have a problem, and I can't do this by myself. So I had to suck my pride up, and I had to reach out for help. That takes a lot of courage to be able to say, all right, guys, so it's very evident, you know, to me, like, I know you guys probably seen it for a long time coming, but to me it's very evident that I do have a problem. The first time was a mistake. The second time was a choice. Now I need help, because I'm not okay. I can't do this on my own. How am I going to do this? What can you guys offer me to help me through this dark time? Because I'm the type of person where I'm going to kick myself harder than anybody else is going to kick me. I'm still kicking myself over it, Gage. I'm still kicking myself over it. And it's been over a year and a half, you know, and I think about it all the time. I think about that whole situation, you know, getting the cuffs thrown on me again, going down to the drunk tank again, you know, being told by the judge, hey, if I see you for a third time, you're going to do some prison time. Well, you don't have to worry about that, Your Honor, because I'm already doing what I need to do to make sure that this train is
It's
not
over.
going,
Yeah.
it's not staying down this route, okay? Like, we're changing. And I feel that when I did start taking responsibility for my actions instead of trying to pin them on everybody else like I did the first time, things really started clicking into place for me. Things started improving. Things started getting better. And I also had all that time to sit there and think, nothing's worse than not having transportation or not being able to go somewhere freely.
Right, I haven't had a license in a year and a half.
And it's
I
just
get that,
like,
yeah.
it's just like, man, I'd really like to go see a movie by myself right now, but I don't know how I'm gonna get there.
How about some groceries?
You know, exactly. Like, oh, so I got to pay an extra fee in order to have them delivered to my house because I'm dumb and I made the mistake. Or you can look at it from a different viewpoint and be like, this is a learning curve. This is a learning lesson. I'm going through some growing pains right now. And this is going to make me a better person. You see the catch-22 in that?
That's hard.
It's a double-edged sword. It really is.
Yeah.
But the more real you are with yourself, the more real with whatever's thrown at you, you can be. Just putting it bluntly, you know?
I think there's utility in building life that's structured in truth. And for me, how I came to that conclusion was my life felt like it kept getting rug pulled. Whereas, like, I'm in this world that I think is truth, and oh, that was false. That wasn't reality.
Yep.
And having that happen enough times, you just say, well, anywho, I'm going to just try to build from the bottom up rather than build a whole castle on a poor foundation.
Yeah.
And it's like, I will study my foundation for years so that I don't keep doing that. So, personally, for today, I feel like I got a lot of questions for you. I want to learn. Usually I'm in your spot where it's like, tell me everything, and I'll just be like, sometimes it seems like wisdom, but it's really God.
Yeah. Well, I will do my best to answer your questions
Yeah.
as they come.
Yeah. I needed this. I needed this on such a deep level. Someone to just help. You don't run into people with this kind of mindset often, who can handle your situations. I've been there. This is how I did it. Thank you. Thank you. And from an outsider looking at your life, I'm very excited. It seems like everything has led up to this point in direction that you're going, which is helping people, which is providing wisdom, answers, direction, purpose, truth, knowledge. And that's why I wanted you to be in this podcast. This is what I'm really good at, media. If you have a message, if you have something that you want the world to see or hear or know about, I know how to get views on your message. And I want to get better at that. And I want the world, I just wanted to use my platform for the right people. You seem like the right person. I just want to see what happens.
I'd love to see where it goes too, man. You know, like, I'm always willing to give something a shot. Always.
Speaking of which, you're doing some YouTube shorts right now. What's up with that?
So they're both YouTube shorts and then what I call ramble sessions.
Okay, long form, longer.
Long form, yep.
Okay.
So the YouTube shorts aspect of it is more of like your basic inspiration, your quick little tidbits, like your quick little advice for the
Twitter
day.
tweets.
Yeah, you know, it's like that. Hey, by the way, just wanted to let you know. The longer ramble sessions are more so for like heavier, in-depth messages people just really need to hear. Like the one that I showed you recently, the more recent video. That was just 100% off the top of the head.
Passion-filled.
Didn't even have to think about it. I felt something inside me say, somebody out there needs to hear this. Just go on a tangent until you got nothing left.
We'll have his YouTube in the description. with this specific short highlighted. Highly recommend. Take a look. I'd say for where you're at, just getting started, it looks really good.
Thank you.
The hardest part is jumping on camera with a message and something to say.
Well, and I'm not going to lie to you. I've been really debating with this decision on making a YouTube channel for a couple of years now. You know, and it was like, well, what am I going to do it on? Like, what's my topic? Who's my audience? What direction do I want to go with this? And finally one day I was sitting down and I just had this epiphany, and it was like, everybody needs inspiration. And from the feedback that I get from, you know, people that come into my job all the time, I'm really good at that apparently. Didn't really think much of it, you know. I just thought I was being helpful and offering some advice to people. So when that epiphany hit me, it wasn't like a light bulb moment. It was like somebody came up with a metal lunch tray and just smacked me upside the head. It was like, you got to do this.
Like a heavy weight just hit you and you're like,
yeah,
oh, I found it.
yeah. And it was just like, hook, line, and sinker. We got it. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got them.
It's like, okay, well, so what's your first message going to be? And that's the one that actually has, I believe, it's close to 500 something views.
Yep.
And I could not believe how quick that one just took off. I mean, I was sitting in my car. I can't even drive, and I'm working on my car. And I'm like, you know what? Let's talk about how life wants to knock us up a little bit, you know, and knock us around. And just kind of like be that voice of hope for people and let them know, like, with my situation, you can get out of it. Like, if I can do it, you can do it. If I personally can get through some pretty tough and dark stuff, I know you can.
With a positive attitude.
Exactly. You know, and you got to keep the positivity, because if you're negative and you're doing that, woe is me, I want milk and cookies, I want to go home, you're not going to reach anybody. You're going to turn more people off than anything.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody likes a pity party, especially when it's a party of only one. Nobody wants that. So, how do you change that attitude? How do you change that mindset? How do you tell yourself, like, I got whatever life's going to throw at me? Well, first of all, it's in the attitude. You got to have that attitude. You got to go in there guns blazing, so to speak. You got to have that mindset of, no matter what, I'm going to succeed.
Give me some. That's what's up, son.
Like, at the end of the day, it may not happen in my time. It may not happen right when I want it. But I am going to see this through. And with my messages and with my channel, if I can reach just one person, it doesn't need to be a whole group of people. It doesn't need to be a whole crowd. If I can just make an improvement on one person's day, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yep.
I don't care if the video's got only one freaking view. Okay? That one view probably helped somebody out. It did its job. Move on. And I don't understand those people that sit there and push the whole, and forgive me for saying this, because I'm probably going to get a lot of heat from people on this, but like, subscribe, you know, like, I'm not going to push that on people. If you want to like my videos, if you want to subscribe to my channel, more power to you. I hope it stays entertaining for you. I hope you get more positivity out of it. But I'm not going to sit there and shove it down your throat because I want the status. I don't care about the status, man. I care about helping people out.
Truth, yeah, yep.
You know?
Yep.
And it's like, okay, going back to the whole situations thing. Because I just had another one of those light bulb moments. Okay? How about this for an analogy? Are you ready? Instead of it being friends are like elevators, situations are like elevators. They're either going to take you up or they're going to take you down. It's entirely up to you on what floor you're going to get off on.
Man. How do you decide? That is right where I'm at. I'm right in an elevator, and I'm looking around, and I'm saying, There's got to be more.
Well, which view do you want?
The best. My potential. That's what I want.
So, with that in mind, okay, if we're thinking about, a skyscraper type building and you're in that elevator, metaphorically, all right, where's the best view usually at?
Top floor, baby.
So, what's stopping you from pressing that top floor? Is it fear? Is it uncertainty? Is it the unknown? Or is it the weight getting up there?
I don't know where I'm at in that process. That's really deep. I didn't have an answer for that. I didn't have that depth of an answer for myself. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know if I'm going up or down. Things around me are not the way, it's like the elevator feels like it's going up, but it looks like it's going down. That's where I feel like I'm at. And I'm really in a weird, like, what? What do I do?
I'd say the best thing for you to do is stop that elevator at some point, open that door, look around, figure out where your surroundings are, metaphorically speaking. And if you need to keep going up, keep going up. Surround yourself around people that are going to bring you up, that want the best for you.
Wow, that's great.
A lot of our situations and a lot of like our what's the word I'm wanting here? Desire have a lot to do with influence. Has a lot to do with influence, and a lot of it's outside influence. It's not even internal.
Yeah, I agree.
We can want something, but if we're surrounding ourselves with people that they're not wanting to grow, they're not wanting to get better, what are we doing? Because we're allowing their energy in.
What do you do when some of that influence is family? And that family is in their own spot and they need help?
Well, first and foremost, you can only lead a horse to water. You can't force them to drink, and you definitely can't drown that horse in the water. I've tried. Not that I condone animal cruelty, but metaphorically speaking,
drowning them in love and whatever.
Like exactly, like you can only do so much for other people. You really just have to make the final call. There's family members that I love and care about deeply, but I had to cut off because they weren't healthy for me. They didn't want to grow and keep moving forward like I did. Does it hurt? Oh, yes, it does. But I want the best for me, and I want the best for them. But I can only control me. So if I'm successful and I'm realizing my dreams, my goals, my, day-to-day, maybe they'll finally wisen up, smell the coffee, and get on board. I can want something for somebody hard, but I can't force it on them. They have to make that decision. They have to make that first step. They can come to me and ask for advice, direction, but I can't take their hand and walk them through it. That's their journey. They got to do it on their own. And it's not being selfish, it's just what it is. 90% or more of like where we get, it's all about the journey. I just said it a little while ago. It's all about the path. It's all about like the experience. You don't just hop in a car and go on a road trip just to make it to the destination. It don't work that way. You can't just, bam, I'm there.
And you don't want that.
Yeah. There's usually some adventure or mishaps in that.
And to bring it full circle, that leads back into being real. Feel the emotions. Feel the journey. Feel the happiness, feel the sadness, feel it all. Don't shun it away. That is why you are here, is to be in that experience. So when you're upset and angry and you don't know what to do, or you're happy and things are going great, like, truthfully, feel that. And I think when you feel those emotions, I think emotions are intelligence, and they tell you something deeper than what you already know about yourself. You don't have necessarily control over your emotions. They just kind of come up, and you have to observe them. It's almost like a deeper part of you telling something about yourself. And you have to study those emotions and really understand why.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I feel this way?
Yep.
What is it here to teach me? What can I learn? And I think a general observation of your life, that standpoint, helps.
Yep. You know, the how I found out that I was an impatient type of personality, believe it or not, I was stationed in Fort Drum, New York.
You were in...
I was in the Army,
Okay.
yes. I was inactive, or I was reservist. They call it split op, from 2007 to 2008. So pretty much what that means is in between my 11th and 12th grade year of high school, I joined the Army and went to basic training that summer, and then I got stationed with a reserve unit.
At 17?
At 17.
Dang.
I wanted it bad. Like that was one of my dreams, is to become a soldier. And then in 2008, when I graduated high school, I went active duty. But so, getting back to the impatient thing, because I always knew I was a little impatient, but this really just like proves it. So I get 2 weeks R&R.
Which is?
Rest and relaxation, more or less. It's 2 weeks vacation for Uncle Sam.
Okay.
So I have this nice new pickup truck, and I want to come back here to Lincoln to hang out with friends and family that I haven't seen, that I've been missing for some time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And this is shortly after my deployment to Iraq, you know. And that's another song and dance for another little session or whatever we decide. But we get the alert that, heads up, there's some inclement weather happening. Well, we're so close to the Canadian border and the Great Lakes that you get this thing called lake effect snow. So the snowstorms tend to happen a little bit quicker. And they're more heavy and blizzard-like than anything. Well, this particular time frame, it had already been snowing quite a bit. It's not going to stop me from getting to where I want to go. I don't care. And I was like, you know what? I got a pickup truck. It's got 4-wheel drive. I'll be all right. So I get on that highway, and I mean, it's like coming down, dude. Bad. And I'm white-knuckling that steering wheel. You can't see any lanes. Like, it's seriously, which lane are you in? Are you even in a lane? Or are you on the grass?
Yeah,
you know? And you see all these cars in the ditches and ravines, you know, and big rigs pulled off to the side with their hazards on. But you can't really see them because of how thick the snow is coming down until you're almost on them, you know? I didn't stop. I didn't want to stop. I wanted to get to where I was going.
Which was?
Back here to Lincoln.
Okay.
All the way from Fort Drum, New York.
Jesus.
Yeah, and this, hold on, it gets better because this ties into the whole impatience thing. So they make you come up with a game plan of what you're going to do, how many hours you're going to drive, how many hours you're going to rest, how many hours you're going to drive. That's like easily a 24-hour trip. I took it all in one shot. And when I first started that trip coming back here, it was rough. Like, driving through a blizzard's not fun in the first place, but doing it, you know, towards the Adirondack mountain range, that's even worse. Like, you should be taking it easy. I did not do that whatsoever. I was like, nope, we're doing this, don't care,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Yep.
And the whole entire time, I'm just like, God, please make sure that I'm okay. Make sure that everybody else, obviously, around me is okay, but I got to get home. I got people that I miss. I need to see these people. And at one point in time, one of my team leaders calls me up, and he's like, hey, Sharp, what are you doing? It's like, I'm driving right now. I can't talk, He's like, are you taking breaks? Yeah, I'm taking breaks. Make it back to Lincoln and stuff, within the next morning and call him up. I'm like, okay, I made it. He's like, you didn't take any breaks, did you? I said, no, I didn't. I should have, but no, I didn't. Well, I had to take accountability. I mean, obviously he knows I didn't take any breaks. Why lie about it, But I was so impatient. And in that impatience, I didn't take the time out to appreciate what was going on around me. And, as I've gotten older and I've matured a little bit more, I look back at that situation and it's like, maybe I could have helped a couple of those people get out. I had a nice truck. I could have easily popped that thing in a 4-wheel, put my tow strap up to them, and yanked them out so they could be on their way. Because who knows? They could have been impatient too. That's probably how they wound up in the ravine.
Yeah, literally.
But it's in that impatience that you get complacent and you don't take in what you need to take in.
Jeez.
Isn't that crazy?
Speechless, yeah. I got to think on that for years.
I mean, like, you're always learning from situations, past and present, and I find that aspect of life really beautiful when you can look at a situation, and maybe it wasn't even a bad situation, maybe it was just kind of like a neutral situation, and you take stock of it, and you're like, okay, well, I obviously identified this one character defect about myself being impatient. What have I done since to improve on it? What has life thrown at me that's like, hey, dude, teaching you to be patient right now. You better learn, because it's not going to get any better for you. And it's like, there's nothing I hate in the world and universe more than idling. I do not want to be that car stuck in traffic just chilling. But it's going to happen. So what am I going to do when that does happen? Well, I can mess around with that radio, or I can quickly shoot a message out to somebody and be like, hey, I'm okay, everything's all right, like, don't worry, life's working for me. Or I can sit there and get angry and frustrated and start cursing at everybody around me.
Man.
That they're stuck in the same exact boat that I'm in. You think Joe Schmo, 3 cars ahead of me, wants to be stuck in traffic too? I don't think so. I think he'd rather be on his way too. He's probably got more important fish to fry than I do. So who am I to be that angry, impatient type of person? Well, I'm nobody at the end of the day. I'll be the first one to say it. I'm a nobody compared to some of these other people.
We all are. Grains of sand in this universe.
Exactly, and that's the thing that I was just trying to drive home is like, together, we're something. Split apart, we're nothing. We have hit several different topics all in one small little period of time.
Yeah,
I'm usually a little bit more organized than this, you know.
Usually there's a structure, there's a path, but personally, I just got so many personal questions and just personal. This is great. This is great to capture. I feel like I'm not in this spot where I'm this vulnerable and this, like, just please help me, God. Like, whatever the help needs to look like, I'll receive it. Just show me. And that's great that I get to capture this on camera.
Yeah.
My thing is I have a very passionate message that I want to share with the world. And that's why I want to learn media. I could have this conversation with, I don't know, maybe 10,000 people through my life. But I want to make a bigger impact. And this is my outlet to do so.
Yeah.
And I see that being something very similar for you.
Oh, absolutely. It's very rewarding, you know, especially when you get a couple of comments on those videos. Where, whether it be like,
Thank you.
give it to God, or thank you, or you need to remember this for yourself too. There's one special person, and I'm not going to get into naming any names. When they see this, they're going to know who they are, but they're always like reminding me that I need to take my own input for myself too. And that's a very important thing for somebody to do. And it's a very big thing for somebody to do that knows you well enough to know, like, sometimes you get so complacent and wrapped up in your own little world that you don't
Listen to
your own thoughts.
Yeah.
You're so busy trying to put out this fire here or that fire there, or trying to fix this or that, or trying to take time for yourself, that you don't heed your own advice, and you really need to do that. And that's a very important thing, to have somebody put you in check like that.
That is the definition of a real friend.
Yes, it is. And it's somebody who actually has your best interests at heart. And that's very rare to find these days.
People like to see you succeed, but not more than them.
Yep. My favorite saying is sometimes you gotta hustle your ass off until your haters ask if you're hiring. I seen that on one of those memes on Facebook, and I saved that to my phone, and it was a background on my phone for the longest amount of time, because it spoke so many different volumes to me. It's like, okay, so when your haters do come up and ask if you're hiring, how are you going to react? Are you going to be like, now?
Right.
Or are you going to be humble enough to be like, okay, maybe I can wear off a little bit on you?
I look at that situation, I try to learn from God and what he does with us, and it's like infinite mercy, unconditional love. Never once, you can get upset and be angry and leave your relationship with God, but he will always leave that door open.
Yep.
No matter how disrespectful, no matter what you did, the door is always open.
Well, and it's like some of the situations that I've shared with you before we came into the podcast is, I could have that anger in my heart, but that's too tiring, man. It takes a lot to be angry, and at the end of the day, I just want people to be happy. So, despite whatever transgressions may have been brought to me, if I can just be like, you know what, yeah, it sucked, but I want them to be happy, I can live with that. That's all I want. I just want people to be happy. We're all going to hurt each other at some point. You're going to get burned. You're going to get cut. You're going to heal too. It might take a little longer. It might take some serious time. But when you do heal, you're going to look at that little battle scar or whatever and be like, I remember that lesson. And I'm not going to let that happen to me again.
So what's your ideal life look like? You seem like you're heading somewhere with a purpose. Tell the people. Let them know.
Well, so, obviously I have some really good stuff going for me right now as far as works related. My ideal life, happiness. It's taken me so long. Like, yes, I'm a happy person, but it's taken me so long to get to where I'm at currently with all my situations and my debts to life, so to speak, that I'll be happy when I don't have to pay those debts off anymore. Where I can actually take a knee and drink water and pull security out to the rear and make sure that other people are being taken care of and that they're learning their lessons, knowing that somebody's got their back. You want
to be a rock for as many people as you can.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any more of a humble purpose than that. Having people truly rely and count on you, that know that they can come to you and know that they can confide in you some of their deepest, darker, secrets, and know I know this dude's not going to go and run his mouth. And that's very hard to do. You can't find that really anymore. You can't find somebody that you can walk up to and be like, So I had this really, really bad situation happen, XYZ, and then that person leaves, and then you go and tell the first person that you see about, oh, I got this juicy information on this person, like, why do that? You're sabotaging that person that just came up and talked to you and
That
confided
trust.
in you. Like,
Yeah.
who's to say that that information doesn't get back to them and then they end up, like, becoming another statistic in life?
Dang.
You know?
Dang.
You gotta really try and look out for people. And you gotta try and have the best interests that you can at heart for not just yourself, because we as human beings, we're naturally selfish, but for everybody around you. And in my ideal life, I'm trying to build like a whole network of people that can come together and work together as one. Because when we work together as one, we have a bigger impact and we can get a lot more stuff done than just being one person. One of my favorite sayings that I would say to you when you would come into my store all the time is, one team, one fight. Well, that's exactly what I meant by that. You might be physically going through something, but we're going through it together as friends. Because if you're having a bad day, I'm having a bad day too. If somebody's done something to hurt you,
I get what you mean.
they hurt me too. And not in a weird way either, but it's just like,
Your problems with the right people. Your problems are my problems are yours. We're here together. That is I love this. I think we've lost the definition of community. Community is not proximity. Community is common unity.
mm-hmm,
Unified by common goals, perspectives, outcomes, desires.
100%.
That is community. And I think, for me, my entire life, community was just who's next to me. And I think redefining that as like, no, your community is people that reside with your beliefs and carry that same vision. And I was like, wow, okay.
And see, those people in that community, they may not even have the same goals as you. They may not have the same mission, but they want to see you right.
Sometimes
So-
it's the same intentions, but totally different dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And, the power in numbers is an amazing thing, so let's say, like, you wanted to be a rock star, okay?
How'd you know?
Just a feeling. But let's say you wanted to be a rock star, okay? Well, I'm really not into that scene, but I want to be, let's say, a DJ, a techno DJ, Well, why can't we build on each other and help each other out during our journey? I'll help you see your dream and realize your goal, and you'll help me with mine.
Amen. Amen.
And I know that's a really rough analogy or metaphor, but it's also a pretty good one at the same point when you seriously put some thought and stock into it.
Same desired outcome. I want to be successful in this music industry, in my niche genre. Together we are musicians, and if you know something about music, then share it, and vice versa. We're going to amplify each other.
Oh, so DJ blah 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 is hearing you play your riff. Well, he feels that you're missing a key here or whatever. So he gives you insight. Okay, that just made that song all that better.
Right?
And then you're hearing something that he's spinning on his turntables, and you're like, I think you could do this a little bit better.
Yep.
And then DJ so-and-so does that, and oh, wow, that just made all the difference, That's really going to bring the crowds, Like, that's beautiful. That's a network. That's a community.
So let's bring that full circle. Let's show them what that means. So for you, I'm going to take this video and I'm going to create 2 videos. One for podcast, and I'm going to send you a shorts edition of this podcast where the camera is just on you. And you can clip it up and turn these beautiful moments into 30 shorts.
Oh, I love it.
Dude, you're producing content right here. The world needs to see it. It's beautiful. It's great. And if you want to do short form chunks, you just gave them 30 chunks that they need to listen to. And then when I send that to you, do your little thing. Hit me up with the title. description, hashtags, things like that. I know YouTube, I know how to get more views. It'll help. Let's make sure that your message reaches as many people that are willing to receive it as possible.
And we'll turn it into a little series too in the same breath, and we'll go from there. But this is exactly what we were just talking about
Yeah.
helping each other out and wanting to see each other successful. And that's really beautiful, the fact that we can not only just talk about it, but act on it and show people what it means to act on it. You know what I mean?
And you will get so much more out of life doing that.
Oh yeah.
So much more. So I'm big into business, so let's get into the business side of things. That means to make the video, this will be a quick video. It'll take me an hour. But to do that side of things, it might take me another whole extra hour just to format the whole thing so that I can send it off to them. But the compounding interest of that small extra step is infinite. Infinite.
Absolutely.
Infinite.
It's
Because the relationship, the bond, the connection, the help, the friendship is worth way more than whatever effort I'm going to put into doing this small little thing for you.
Oh, absolutely, and I think it's appreciated on both ends of the fence too, both sides of the fence. Like, you're saying how much you needed this, well, I needed it
dude.
too, like,
Yeah.
Not-
You've helped me
like-
so much right now.
and I'm not necessarily just talking about the podcast. Like, this is a cool experience. This is a first time experience for me, but I needed to see a friend. I needed to see somebody that I haven't seen for a long time. My soul thirsts for things like that, that connection, that bond. And it's when you find yourself really missing somebody, the universe always ends up going, hey, by the way, open that door. There's this person.
I have a question for you. Because that has been on my mind. I broke up with a woman like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I've dated around and stuff, but I've never forgot that situation. I've never forgot that person. I've never forgot that dynamic.
Mhm.
Irreplaceable. And I left it up to God when I left. But I'm reminding God that my door is still open.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, how do you know when you need to leave the door open and when you need to close it?
Ooh, that's a good question, man.
Especially when your heart's like, I cannot forget this person. And God, I would give anything. We don't ever have to date again. I just want to see her and know that she's okay and know that if she needs it, I'm here. Like, just that connection.
I don't think it's a matter of knowing when to leave the door open or closed. I think it's more of a matter of when to leave the light on.
What does that mean?
Like,
Because I hit.
How do I want to elaborate on this? It's more of a matter of like, now would be a perfect time or opportunity for us to be able to reconnect.
How do you know when that time is?
You don't. That's the beautiful thing about life and the universe is you're not in control at the end of the day, and we both know that. Like, in our own separate situations, we know that. But having that open dialogue with God or, whoever's higher power is, whatever, and just being like, my light's on, my door's open, I'm open for whatever, even if it's just like get a coffee real quick and catch up,
No
Eventually-
expectations, just...
Exactly, well, and if you go into any situation with expectations, you're just setting yourself up for failure immediately. Having an open heart and an open mind and, being open to whatever the situation may be, that'll really help you out. But as long as you keep that light on and whoever's listening, that's what's going to make or break it. That's what's going to decide when and how and why. I've never left a situation with another human being expecting anything, like expecting them to come back and us to be able to pick up again. Like I've always tried to leave that light on to let people know, like, hey, just because you and I like didn't work out or we don't get along, doesn't mean that I'm still not an ally. It's very rare that I get into those situations where it's like, okay, well, if I see you, it's on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a problem. We got some major beef. It's very rare. You gotta really push me to a situation or a point that I'm just like, I'm done with you. I wash my hands of you. I'm dropping you like a 10-pound sack of potatoes in the Pacific Ocean, But having that openness and that willingness to have open conversation and dialogue, that is the most important thing. And being true to yourself. Being true to what you actually want. Because we can sit there and tell ourselves that we want a situation.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you see where I'm going with it now?
Dang.
You see where I'm going with this now?
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we fear is the unknown. Why do you think, like, my theory anyways for why people procrastinate so much is because of that unknown. They don't want to fail. They
Fear
don't
of the
want
unknown, yeah.
they don't want to feel rejected. So they don't even make the attempt in any aspect.
The devil you know is better than the devil you don't.
Yep. I'd rather be comfortable instead of, well, let's go out there and get a little uncomfortable and experience some things and see what happens. Let's go on an adventure.
Fuck yeah.
I think this is the most knowledge and advice and metaphors and analogies I've dropped for a very long time, bro. I really appreciate this.
You're like a genie lamp right now. This is ideal in so many directions.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
things are just flowing out of you too. Like, it's great. Perfect, flawless, from God.
smooth like water, and all I can be is a tool,
Amen.
And like I said, it's taken a lot of trial and error to get to where I'm at and have this much insight. And being an overthinker and having nothing but time on one's hands in certain aspects and in certain situations, it helped hone that ability. It helped like open doors for that. Was I happy that I had all that time to sit down and think and twiddle my thumbs and idle and stuff? Absolutely not. Everybody knows how I feel about idling.
Yeah.
But it was necessary. Everything happens for a reason. Everything. Nothing's by chance. There's some sort of method to madness behind it.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what the situation is.
There's a chaos theory in that no matter no matter how extreme the situation or how shallow, life follows a pattern of cycles, and the scale of the cycles varies depending on the situation. But everything is in its spot, in its cycle, in its moment.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was very interesting.
You might have to send me a message with that again so I can
Yeah.
meditate a little bit
Yeah.
harder on that, because that was deep.
It helps. It helps when you can study that and start to understand your own cycle and say, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay, because what's coming is here, and you can start to prepare. It's like the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, hold up. It's everything. Everything in life has its patterns and cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So me using the restroom is my own pattern and cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Me waking up, my own pattern and cycle. What I decide to do with my life, my own pattern and cycle. What the world is doing is its own pattern and cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything has its place and its moment and its time.
It's a fine balancing act, really, when you put it like that. It's a really fine balancing act. And when you look at that aspect, you start to realize that one little mishap can definitely throw everything off balance. But getting back onto that balance, that's key.
And that's where I think that there's still a cycle in that.
Yeah.
In having the balance and then falling off.
Mm-hmm.
And then finding it again. And then falling off again in the other direction.
Yep. Cause and effect. Trial and error.
I feel like my purpose in life and what I'm spending my life studying and learning is, what is life and who are we?
Mm.
What is the video game I'm playing? Who is my character in this video game before I spend years of my life doing anything? If I threw you into a brand new game that you've never played before, it'd be 10 times smarter to start asking questions.
Yep.
What is purpose? How do I play this? What is this character that I'm in? It's like Abraham Lincoln's, or I don't know whose quote it is, but two people are chopping down a tree. The first person spends 4 hours just chopping away. The other person spends 2 hours sharpening their axe.
Mm.
It's like, ooh. Okay.
That makes me think of the whole analogy of the farmer who prepares for rain gets the crops.
I haven't heard that. Sure.
So that's pretty much cut and dry, you know. So the farmer who ends up preparing for when it does finally rain, he's going to be the one that has the most successful crops versus the farmer who just sits around and does that. It's not going to rain. We're in a dry spell.
He who plants seeds will reap what he sows.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To go back into the cycle of things, I've been, over the last few years, observing my life in seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm realizing is that fall into winter, I step away from the hard work and I go into a meditative, quiet space, plant the seed.
Mm-hmm.
What is this next year about?
Yep.
Spring, summer, grind. And fall is always that graceful period of, it might still be hard, but I think in the ideal is that you start to see some of the seeds that you planted in the last fall and in the winter through education, through learning, through, hey, last season I planted 5 seeds and 3 things grew.
Mm-hmm.
This year I'm going to try 10 seeds and I want to see 8 grow. And just kind of having a what's worked and what hasn't from the last season and seeing a cycle and a timing for everything.
Well, don't forget, you also got to try new things too. Not to say that your way isn't the way that works for you, but who's to say you don't discover something completely new, a new way to make that seed grow.
I get what you mean. I agree with it. I think that's just where there's a lot of layers to life.
Yeah, like an onion, man.
Yes.
And it's going to make you cry. So you better put a stick of gum in and start chewing.
Is that what it does? A stick of gum helps?
Yeah.
Fuck.
So they say, anyways. I just push through, honestly. Like, when I'm cutting onions for dinner, I'm just like...
I enjoy it. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I'm like, you know what? Fuck.
Cat's sitting there, you know, crying with you on the counter.
Dang.
But, I like that. I like that about the seasons. And I need to really think about that, and I need to take that advice too, because I'm completely different in that fact where I'm always grinding. Like,
I get that.
I don't
get that.
I don't take any time off
Yeah.
when I need to. And when it finally reaches that point where I do need time and I can't get it, I get frustrated so quickly, because it's like, guys, I really need this. I really need to take a pause, like time out, you know, I need this. So when you don't develop those patterns, you end up shortening yourself. You end up robbing yourself of those opportunities for those little breaks and reprieves.
And you do, long term, you need those. You need to pace yourself.
Absolutely.
That's something I'm learning. To tie into what you're saying, the years have not been easy. The years have not. It is a constant work, no matter what phase I'm in. So the winner for me might look like structure your business, create that plan that you talked about. Hey, now springtime, execute. And it's not I'll wait for winter, but it's a really deep observation of like, interesting. I naturally go into this. It's a sense of self-mastery of like, I observe that in the winters I'm in that state, and not resisting it has been a big lesson. I'm very big on just work, just grind. If you want something, just work for it. And
It's very methodical.
it feels good, but sometimes I find myself beating myself up all the time the second I stop. What are you doing? Get to work. And I have to remind myself that like, it's important for me to sit back and think and reflect. And when you look at life, you know, those who work and never take a step back to think don't really get as far as people who work extremely hard and take a step back to think. And I kind of look at it as like your construction workers, your bricklayers, your really just hard labor workers. It's like you can do that every single day. But until you stop and think of how you can apply this skill, you're just doing the same thing every day. And I feel like my target audience, in a way, is people who aren't scared to take risk and who aren't scared to work their ass off all day, every day. And for those people, I have a lot of lessons and sympathy in learning to rest. Learning to give yourself what you need, even when it's not what you think it is. So sometimes, a great example, at 19 I moved from Nebraska to Georgia. And my goal was, I want to do business, I want to big into money and the finance side of things, and that's what I want to do. I spent 20 to 23 not working. I was working, but it was like a spiritual work. It was, you're not going to do that. You need to figure out who you are, why you're here, what your purpose is. And being able to surrender and give myself compassion in those moments to say, it's okay. I know you want this thing, but I'm going to be compassionate enough with where I'm at right now to say, you need this instead.
Ooh. Oh, that's deep.
And that's hard.
Deep.
That's hard. And that hurts.
Yeah. I can relate to a certain aspect, you know, because when I got out of the service, it was like, well, now what? You know, and I fell on a little bit of hard times. I couch surfed for a little bit. I was homeless for a little bit, you know. Not doing like a boo-hoo, because it all brought me to who I am today.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You know?
It's just context.
But when I wasn't working, I found myself feeling like so useless, you know, and that was really a frustrating time in my life. And I had people always telling me, hey, you got to get plugged into the VA. The VA is going to help you out so much. And I always had it in the back of my head, like the VA was this bad group of people, you know, like some thugs trying to, you know, steal your lunch money type stuff. And finally one day I had a really intense life moment happen. And I contacted the VA, and I was in tears, and I was just so beside myself and so upset. And I was telling the lady on the line, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I had purpose. I had that motivation. I had that drive, you know, and the person that I've become, I can't even stomach anymore. And I need help, and I need to figure out what to do and where I'm going. And I need that purpose. Because without that purpose, I'm completely lost. And I don't do that gray area. Life for me has always been black and white. It's yes or no. There's no maybes to it. You know, she immediately got me hooked up and set up. She immediately helped me get in with a program called HUD-VASH, which is the VA's version of Section 8, you know. Got my own place. I got several years back pay from the VA, you know, and I could have taken that money and I could have pocketed it. But instead, what I did is I turned around and I started blessing the people that had been blessing me. There was one gentleman by the name of Raul who he and Carlos, or Los as he's known, they were like my little group of people when I was on hard times. And when I got that huge chunk of money, and I mean it was a fat chunk of money, and I'm in my own apartment. You know, when I first got that apartment and then I got all that money, me and Los, we just sat around like hyping around the freaking living room, this empty apartment, just like, oh my God, we did it! I finally got a place, man! You know, well, Los had some issues with his car. So I turned around and I took a good chunk of that money and I just dropped it on him. And he was like, why? Like, you didn't have, why? And it's like, because I got it and I can, and because you helped me out, and you seen me through some pretty dark and bad days, and at the end of the day, I'm gonna take care of those who took care of me. Like, I want to see, it's like what Tupac said, I want to see everybody eat at the end of the day. It may not be at my table, but I still want to see you eat, you know, just for a good little quote. And then I turned around and I took some money and I gave it to Raul for a situation that he was going through. And, you know, he had this very adorable little boy. And this little kid, like, he would call me uncle, you know. And that really touched me very deeply, especially during those times when I didn't feel like I had anybody. And to have a little kid that actually looked up to me and was like, not necessarily my child who's relying on me to figure my crap out, but it still was inspiration to help me figure out where I was going and what choices I was making in life, you know. And that helped me open up so many doors just by reaching out to the VA. It just opened up so many other opportunities for me. I've been a business owner.
About to be another one.
You know, exactly. You know, I've worked so many different jobs, and one of the things that has helped me out with these other jobs is I go in there and I'll be like, okay, well, I don't know much, but I'm willing to learn. You know, and that in turn opens. It's a chain reaction. I need help. I don't know much. Okay, boom, 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 boom. And then next thing you know, you're in this nice brick mansion looking around at all these rooms going, well, what am I going to do now? And you figure it out, you know. You start figuring out, okay, well, this portion of this mansion, this is where I'm going to have, like, my skeletons, and, you know, I'm going to keep them open, out in the open, so then this way everybody knows, like, I'm not a perfect person whatsoever. I have my moments.
I like that you said that, out in the open.
Oh, absolutely.
It's freeing to have it out in the open.
Well, when you keep everything bottled up, you're not going to get that one up that you need. You're not going to get that assistance. And everybody needs an assist every now and then. You know, there was a moment when I was going back to the homeless thing, you know, where like, I was just literally bouncing around from one place to the other, just trying to figure life out. I had one dude bless me with $500. And I asked him, I was like, well, why are you giving me $500? And the thing that he said to me has stuck with me for almost a decade now. And he was like, it's not a handout, it's a hand up. I'm not doing this just to give it to you because I'm expecting something or I want anything in return.
Yeah, I know. It's
I'm giving this to you because I can see you need it. And I can. But think about that. It's not a handout, it's a hand up.
I love that.
And I've actually debated on getting that tattooed because it's just, that's a good life lesson too, you know.
Great reminder. It's a great reminder for someone who has a hard time receiving too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, hey, don't feel guilty. Don't feel bad about it. Like, this is a hand up. Use it and feel good about it. You deserve it.
Exactly. And sometimes a person needs just like a couple $100 just to get through. We don't know what anybody's really going through. And that's kind of poetic in the fact that you might be going through a situation and I can offer you something that can assist you just a little bit. And if I don't have any expectations of receiving it back, I can't be disappointed. Just for some food for thought.
Yeah, I like that silence after. That was like it's much deserved. This is I hope the whole world sees this, and I understand if they don't.
What I really hope is somebody takes at least a few of the things that we've discussed on this session here and they gain something from it.
Regardless of who sees this, I will show my kids. I will come back at hard times, and I will remind myself these lessons that you've taught me. Me as an everyday human, putting myself in the human experience, this is what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
I think where the world's at, I think the world needs things like this.
Oh, the world is still bouncing back from so much negativity over the last,
200 years?
Yeah, and I mean, in one of my videos, it was a morning video, and I got my cup of coffee and I'm stepping outside, you know, and this is before I quit smoking. I just recently quit smoking, by the way. And that's been a process and journey all on its own. But, so I stepped outside and I was smoking a cigarette, drinking my coffee, and it was like, let's put something out there. And in that video, I'm pretty much talking about, like, let's love one another for all of our differences. Like, why hate on somebody because they're a little different? I'll have to find that video and send it specifically to you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm pulling some of it out of context, but just off the top of my head, that's more or less what the message was, is love one another. We're all different. Why disrespect somebody, whether it be race, nationality of any sort, you know? Why disrespect somebody because of viewpoints or sexuality or whatever? We got to learn to accept each other for who we are. Because we're all different. And if we can accept one another for who we are, we've done our job as people, as a culture, as a society. We've done our job.
Wow, I like that you highlighted that there is a right way to live life.
I mean, yes and no.
I think there's structure to life that creates a life worth living, and it's in those deep, semi-common sense concepts that are in the Bible. You see it in elderly, like just the wisdom of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And why I say that is I feel like literally where I'm at, I'm not sure which direction I need to take.
Mm-hmm.
But if I knew more of the principles of, like, that's okay, but if you live your life with these concepts, with these principles, it won't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I took from that, is like, honestly, just understand better what's important,
Mm-hmm.
and focus on that, and focus on the positives, and allow the negatives to come, but don't react, don't let them tear you down. I want to get into one question with that, and it's just, I'm in a very specific spot to myself, and it's this bridge between both of those worlds. Like, cool, I get it, but how long do I I think you actually gave me the answer. Step out of the elevator, look around, ask yourself where you want to be.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great.
It's great that you even like pulled that from that, you know. And it's like I purposely put myself in different situations and culture shocks and things like that just to see what I'm going to do or how honest to who I am.
Yeah.
So like
Testing your character.
there was a moment in time where I was living in a house with a bunch of Haitians. Haitians, yes.
What's that?
American Haitians. So like they're from a different country culturally.
Okay.
And
That should have been fun.
oh, it was interesting.
Yeah.
I was the only white color skinned person in this household. And we all had the same common goal of music.
Wow.
We all wanted to pursue music. And for whatever reason, they accepted me for who I was and my differences. And there was a couple of times where I tried leaving the house by myself, and it wasn't a very good neighborhood at all. It really was not. And I'd come back, and one of the guys that would be like crashed out on the couch, he'd be like, "Where were you at?" "I went to go and get a pack of smokes." "No, you're not allowed to do that by yourself. Like, do you not know where you're at? Like, wake me up next time and I'll go with you. It's no skin off my back. Like, protecting you, making sure you're safe, like, that's important because we got to look after each other, you know?" And
Whew,
in
chills,
that
dude.
moment in time, I didn't really understand it because I was so young and naive. And as I got older, I realized it was because they were looking out for who I was as a person. It wasn't like a your skin color kind of thing. It was more like
brotherhood.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're important to us because we accept you, and you give us motivation and inspire us and help us out when we need it, and vice versa. So if you're going to go in through this bad neighborhood by yourself at XYZ hour where nothing good ever happens, you're going to wake me up and you're going to make sure that I'm tagging along with, because nobody goes out anywhere solo. Like, there's always a buddy system. There's always a buddy system. And I was very sad to leave that house. I'm very thankful that we all left on good terms. It's unfortunate that we've allowed time and distance to get in the way of everything.
Mm-hmm. I'm listening.
But it was a very beautiful experience that I was happy to be a part of. I got to experience a completely different culture, different foods, different viewpoints, you know. Like, how many people can say that they experienced a huge culture shock living with like 5-6 dudes?
I've experienced probably not to the same degree, but I can relate. I was in California, Orange County, California.
Ooh, California.
Yeah, and it was a predominantly Asian neighborhood.
Mhm.
In school, I mean, it was like 70% Asian. The only white guy, and I'm talking the whitest of white guys. Like, where are you from? Nebraska, like dirt country, middle of the United States.
Where's that at?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, try to tell him, like, so is that like in Europe? No, like dirt country, German family from, hundreds of years ago, like white. And yeah, the
You
culture.
turn out the light and I glow.
Yeah. And so I get the culture shock of like, oh, especially being in the United States from Nebraska, like, this is home, this is the culture, and being thrown into that situation, I was like, oh, this is my territory.
Yep.
Like, I have to surrender to what their culture is, the food, how they talk. It was awesome. It was great. I mean, I feel like I can connect with a lot of different people now.
Right.
It was an amazing experience. So I didn't get quite what you got. That sounds a little more personal.
In a lot of ways, yes.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why I, obviously left names and certain details and stuff out, but it was a good experience, and I learned a lot from that experience. Not just the aspect of music making, which I was still very fresh at, and it was an interest of mine. It still continues to be an interest of mine, but I had to put that interest on the back burner so I could focus on more important things, such as being a parent, and at some point you got to kind of wisen up and be like, I know I'm not going to be the next Slim Shady or anything like that. This is more hobby than anything. This is more of a way for me to express myself. But it was very rewarding in the same breath because of all the things that I learned, both with music and with the people that I was surrounded with and the environment. Because when you grow up here in Nebraska, we got our version of rough neighborhoods and stuff, but it was nothing like down in Florida, man. Nothing,
No. This isn't Compton.
Yeah, exactly. So when you experience those things, at the time you're naive, so you're not taking in that full experience. But then later on, you have that moment to reflect and think about it, and you're just like, wow, okay, I really learned something there. I really had the opportunity to truly grow. And not just grow, but grow outside of my comfort level, too. And that's huge. When you can grow outside of your own comfort level, I don't think there's anything more beautiful than that. I really don't. There's something to be said about that.
You grew, you changed in a way you'll never regress.
Exactly.
You added a tool to your belt.
And I was able to see through somebody else's viewpoint than my own. With the culture aspect.
I got a question for you. I gotta use the restroom. Do you want to keep this going? Or do you want to call this an episode and just at another point? I mean, this is a conversation that's endless, lifeless, or full of life.
Let's see here. We can keep this going.
Okay, let me use the restroom.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, real quick. The camera died. Mine does. Probably be about 45 minutes of Dane's beautiful face or some cool picture. We'll find out. But this is us just continuing the live camera portion of this video. This is a continuation.
Technical issues and difficulties.
Lessons along the journey.
Exactly.
That's what that is.
And learning.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that we're doing a lot of live demonstrations of well, how do you do it when things don't go right? We just filmed an hour and a half episode, and we have 30 minutes of video footage, and we lost an hour of the meat and potatoes. But you know what?
The juicy stuff with the gravy.
Yeah, the stuff you wanted to see, and all of it, the best parts, didn't capture it. But it's okay. We lived, we learned, we enjoyed it. We're one step further. If we were to do it again, it'd be that much better. Here we are.
There's always next time, and work out the kinks and improve.
Yep.
And that's all we can do. I just told you, progress is progress, man. And that's all we can do is progress.
Amen. And I think some of my passion in life is to document my life.
Mm-hmm.
And to document just what it was like, so that later down the road I can show my kids and be like, I don't know, but here it is. Here's kind of like the raw experience. Just I was out there living and shit, and here's what happened, and that's what a lot of this is like.
Well, and, something that you can take and show your children. That's always really rewarding as well. It's like earlier when we were talking about my passion for music and stuff, and there was a song that I actually got the privilege of being featured on. And I love being able to show that to my kids, especially my daughter. She really loves it. She tells all of her friends at school, my dad was on a song. It's like, no. It's not like that. It's not like that. Like, it wasn't released or anything. It was just a fun little project to be a part of. And she's like, you still were on a song, Dad. And it's like, okay, you got me there.
That is cool.
Like, you got me there. You know, and being able to document something and then show it later on down the road is a reward in itself.
Yeah. And I look at it too think if like Jeff Bezos was recording, had a ton of videos of him like, yep, I showed up to the office today and still no money.
Yep, showed up to the office today in my own house with this little plastic table that I'm using as a desk.
Just an idea.
Because, I mean, yeah, he literally started from nothing. And now look at him. You know, and that's proof in itself that if you have a dream or a goal and you want to see it carried out, as long as you keep hustling and you keep grinding, it's going to happen. You just got to keep that faith. And you also got to be true to yourself and humble.
That's a good reminder.
Earlier you said something to the effect about me just being real. And I'm gonna curse, so I apologize for anybody out there that doesn't like curse words, but one of my favorite jokes to tell people is when I die, I want on my tombstone, real ass motherfucker. So in that way, when people come across it, they can just be like, here lies a real ass motherfucker. You know?
That's gangsta.
Like,
that's funny.
But it's like, I've always appreciated the realism in situations and in people, and just like, not everything's all fine and dandy. You know, there's always going to be something that you don't like, whether it's in conversation or somebody's personality defect or, you know, a situation. Like, there's always going to be something. But if you can keep yourself real, you're good. Like, you're all right. Having that expectation of, well, this has to go this way because I said so. No, it doesn't. That's you're fooling yourself right now, dude. You can't fool yourself on a situation. It doesn't work that way. We are not in control. You know, there's always somebody else who's trying to grab a hold of that steering wheel. So quit trying to yank it. You're going to drive the car off the road.
So you're suggesting surrendering to the natural flow and more or less destiny of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's fun.
Oh, it is. And when you finally do that, you finally start getting a little bit more relaxed. You're not always on edge because you're not trying to control the outcome of every situation.
So, man, I love that we're dancing around in my life right now on a lot of these topics. It's like, I totally understand that. But what happens when you're tired of showing up and experiencing the same thing every day?
Well, I mean, you got to have a little bit of spice to your life, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to take a break. Sometimes you just got to go and do something for yourself. Especially on your own personal time. You know? Sitting down on the couch on your personal... And I'm using personal time because, like, everybody can relate to having a day off from their day job, you know?
Yeah.
So sitting down on the couch and watching a movie every single day off, that shit's gonna get old, stale, boring really quick.
Yeah.
Why don't you pick up a fishing pole and go fish? And sit there and be patient for a little while. Work on that patience aspect and wait for a fish to bite on your line.
Okay, so I love that. Thank you. That was the actual answer I was looking for, is find something you enjoy while you need to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been watching this, I hope to God that is what you experienced through this. What I just experienced is my issue was I need help in this time of in this time period of it's a quiet time in my life, it's a patient time, and it's a more lonely time. All as it's supposed to be. But how do I handle that? How do I persevere through that and smile and still enjoy the experience? How do I maximize my life through maybe, I'm an extroverted social person, through that kind of quiet time? Do the things you enjoy that naturally are kind of like a patient, fishing.
Mm-hmm.
What an example. I'm building, I got an 89 dually truck out there. It's all torn apart. You could probably see it on your way in. It's not going to happen overnight.
No.
Enjoy. That is I go home, I chill out, I want to relax, I work on the truck. I just kind of sand away. It's melodical, or, it's enjoyable. And I feel like I'm progressing. It allows me to think. It's like doing the dishes. I still feel good. I'm getting somewhere. But life passes by. And I feel guilt-free of just relaxing and doing this thing. I needed that.
Sometimes that's what you need is you just, excuse me, sometimes you just need that moment of tuning out, like you were just talking about how you enjoy working on your truck, well, I'd venture to say I know you well enough to know that you can work on that truck without really having a single thought in your mind. Just kind of tune out the whole entire world and just take care of business, you know? And,
oh my God, and that's so important.
Oh, there's a special somebody in my life that I tell her all the time, like, when I'm around you, that noise just shuts off.
Wow.
Like, and it's not even anything we do together. It's just being in her presence, that noise, that constant, all those thoughts and ideas and everything that's always just like bam, bam, bam. It just shuts off. It's quiet and it's so peaceful and it's so nice because it's like, here I am spending genuine quality time with somebody that I've grown to care for. And I don't have to think about a single thing. And a lot of times she'll be like, what you thinking about? Nothing. I'm literally in my nothing box right now. And all of us guys have a nothing box. All of us men have a nothing box.
But it's hard to be in that box when you're an overthinker.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And we find that nothing box tends to be like a little shoe box compared to a moving box, But it's our nothing box. It's our favorite box out of all the boxes we have.
That means you're doing something you like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you're in that nothing box, and in my past experiences with other relationships, I've had situations arise where they're like, well, there's no way you're thinking about absolutely. No, I'm literally thinking about nothing right now.
That's hard to do.
And the fact that I'm even able to turn my mind off this long is a testament to how at peace I am. So don't take it as a bad thing, because it's not a bad thing. Just let me enjoy my nothing box for a little bit. And when I'm bored of it, I'll put the lid back on, I'll put it back on the shelf, and then I'll be present again. But until then, just let me do what I'm doing, because I need this. This is my treat to myself.
Is it okay, so if you don't have a nothing box, you're not used to giving yourself that time and space. How do you introduce that? I notice there's moments in my life early on where I did not allow that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would get in those spaces where I needed that, I would, there was a lack of compassion. I wouldn't give it to myself.
Have you ever heard of mindfulness?
Yes.
Practicing mindfulness.
Yeah.
If you want to answer just like right off the top of the head, is it's going to be mindfulness. That's how I developed it.
Okay.
Because like we've discussed, we're both overthinkers. We can overthink a problem until we're blue, purple, pink, whatever shade of color in the face. Until we're like 20 steps or 20 situations and scenarios ahead of it. But when you take the time out to start practicing meditation or mindfulness, you start to develop that box. And then it slowly just grows from there. So it might have started off probably about the size of a ring box first. And then it grew to like a little box. And then a shoe box. And then next thing you know, you got a little movers box. And then you got one of those totes from Walmart that you could probably fit a body in. You know, like it's practice. And it takes a lot of practice.
Intention.
Oh yes.
Yep.
And you gotta really remind yourself to take time out for it. Especially if you're an overthinker. Because being an overthinker is like a curse and a blessing all at the same time. And you gotta like tell yourself, I don't need to overthink this right now. I can just let things be what they are. I don't need to worry about, hey, this is going wrong or whatever. Like, just let it be.
You know, that brought up something for me. I think I enjoy sometimes overthinking.
Well, and we tend to do that because that's all we really know.
Mm.
So
I
if
think you're right.
So if it's all you've really known, yeah, of course you're gonna enjoy it. It's like addicting.
Yeah. Yep.
It's very addicting, and there's a lot of good things that happen being an overthinker, but there's also a lot of downfalls to it too. You know, so there, I'm not like every happy person. I have my moments. I have my downs, and ups, just like everybody else out there in the world. And when I have my downs and I'm overthinking situations, that's where I have to start like, okay, where are 3 sustains and where are 3 improves? Where are 3 things that are going good for you right now? And what are 3 things that could improve?
And then what? You appreciate the things that are sustained and you focus on things that can improve?
Oh, absolutely. And I learned that from my time in the military. After every little field training exercise mission we would do, they would gather us all up and sit us down, and they would pull out this whiteboard and they'd be like, okay, well, what were 3 things that went right with this operation? What were 3 things that went wrong? How are we going to fix this? What are we going to do to ensure that this doesn't happen again? Oh, okay. We got our plan. Let's go out and do it again in training. I would not have that mindset had I not been in the military.
Whoa, that totally normalizes messing up. It almost creates a purpose of like, we trained so we could find the flaws. I worked so things could go wrong, so I could learn and know how to do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And that there is a dedicated time in any field of expertise where you go, I'm just doing this, not even for the final mission. Like I'm just in training, and I'm in training to fail, so that the day of the mission I'm ready to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I want my name under that quote. I'm joking.
we better get that right away.
In stone.
I think there's a lot to be said if you do take the 3 and 3 rule, and you can learn a lot, because we don't tend to look at things objectively.
What do you mean? Like from a step back?
Yeah, like
It's not okay.
because we're
In
the ones experiencing it. We're in it, so we're more focused on that POV view, that viewpoint, that firsthand account and experience. So if we were to take a step back and we were to look at it and we were able to see like everything, like the whole thing, including ourselves, and then we were to apply that sustain and improve, we could probably really do a great deal of damage. And I'm not saying like go out and destroy the world, scorched earth. It's like, no, we could literally become some dangerous people with what we want to see through getting it through.
We could achieve anything.
Absolutely. And it's an amazing thing when you can identify things that you need to improve on. But it's even more of an amazing experience when you roll your shirt sleeves up and you start getting into it and you're like, yeah, I'm doing the thing. I'm doing the thing. And you know what? I don't care if I fail right now because this is new.
Interesting. When you're by yourself and you play a video game and you fail, you don't get upset. You understand it's part of the process.
Oh, absolutely. And nothing against rage gamers, but I've never understood like the whole throwing your controller across the room and screaming and yelling. I got a neighbor that does that, and it drives me absolutely batshit crazy because it's like, first of all, I can hear you in my own home, and it's disturbing my peace. And second of all, it's just a game, dude. It's just a game. It's a learning process. Okay, so what? You died. Get back to that checkpoint and continue on. Try a different avenue. If that don't work, try another one. Keep doing it until it does work. You can do over 1,000 combinations for something, and only one of them's the right way. But you got to find that right way. And it's going to take some time, and it's going to take some serious patience to do it. So while you're throwing a fit and you're screaming and you're possibly breaking your own controller because of it, what's that doing? Is it doing anything positive? No, probably not. You're probably going to end up needing to buy a new gaming controller at the end of it. If not a new TV entirely. You know? But I feel like when people take the time out to look at the problem and work the problem, and I mean truly work the problem, you can identify the problem. Everybody can identify a problem. But working the problem, that's where the true magic happens. Take an addict, for example, if you will. Okay, what's the problem? Let's identify the problem real quick. Okay, they're addicted to a substance that is creating harm, not just to themselves, but to others around them. And I'm not talking like, oh, well, this is probably really not good, my mom being around this. No, I'm talking like this is really hurting our relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, you've identified the problem. How are you going to work the problem? Okay, I need to stop this. I need to figure out how I'm going to kick this addiction. So what can I do for that? Do I need to look at treatment options? Do I need to reach out to a hospital? Do I need to go to, a psych ward for a little bit and get myself right? Okay. What are some long-term things that I can do down the road? Well, there's meetings. NAAA. Okay. Well, if I do that, what's going to happen? Oh, you're going to find accountability. You're going to find a community of like-minded people that you wouldn't be around if you didn't have this problem in the first place, because there's such a wide variety of different people at these meetings that you and Mary Sue wouldn't even know each other had you guys not attended the same meeting. Because she likes punk rock music and you like country music. And you guys are so opposite from each other. But when you guys come to this meeting or whatever, you guys help each other work this problem. I know, I probably just threw a lot at you and just completely wrecked your world at the same point, but...
I mean, it got pretty deep there. Even the whole female analogy was like, shit, you know what? You probably find a better significant other, not in the places that you always find yourself, but where you don't find yourself. The opposite of, usually I think a relationship with a significant other is typically best when they are in a lot of ways different from you. And so if you want to find someone different than you,
Mm-hmm.
maybe look in a place you're not usually in.
My grandfather, so talking about that, okay. My grandfather, who was also a recovering alcoholic, actually met the person that I called grandma my whole entire life at an AA meeting. And then they went on a couple of dates, and then they started falling head over heels for each other. And then next thing you know, that's all she wrote. Two people trying to improve themselves because they had a situation in their life that they had to fix. And then they ended up finding themselves. And when you think about that, it's like, y'all met at an AA meeting? What? Of all places, that's where you guys ended up meeting each other, is at a meeting, talking about how you guys all have an issue with drinking. Okay, whatever, guys. But what I love when I look at that relationship that they had is they complemented each other so well. My grandmother was a very loving and giving person, and my grandfather was about as ornery as they came. And you put those two together, and it was just so beautiful to watch.
Yeah, perfect.
And he would do stuff just to intentionally razz her, and she'd act like she was upset, but she really did love it, you know. She'd be like, "Oh, Mel," you know, and it's like, that's beautiful. That's beautiful to witness,
Wow.
especially as a kid, you know. And you're like, okay, maybe that's how it's supposed to be. All these movies got it wrong, you know. And when they had hard times, they'd work together on it, you know. Yeah, there probably were arguments here or there, but as a child growing up, I never seen my grandparents fight or argue because they kept it to themselves. They didn't involve the younger dynamic into it. And then they would discuss the problem. I never heard them yell. My grandfather got mad at me maybe one time.
For what?
And it was so stupid because I wasn't paying attention to what he was saying. We were getting ready for a fishing tournament. He was the president for the Nebraska Walleye Association for years. And we were getting ready to go to Lake McConaughey. And he was trying to get the cooler stocked up with Mountain Dew. Because when he quit drinking, that's all he drank was soda. And he's trying to have me put the Mountain Dew cans in the cooler. And I'm not comprehending what he's saying or how he wants me to do it. I'm just kind of putting them in there more or less. And we got to get hit in the road. You know, there's that whole dynamic of a time frame and stuff that a kid knows nothing about,
Right.
you know. And he got really stern and snapped at me really quick and kind of did that whole back away, let me do it. And I got really quiet. My feelings got hurt, of course, you know. And I got in the truck and we end up starting to travel out of Lincoln. And he stops at a Dairy Queen to get everybody ice cream, to include their family dog. Muttley always got his own little cup of vanilla ice cream. You know, that dog was spoiled to all get out. And I had to use the restroom, so I went in to use the restroom. I came back, and when I got in the truck, my grandfather turned around and he looked at me. He said, "Dain, I want to apologize for snapping at you. I should not have done that, and I'm sorry." Bro, you want to talk about a grown adult taking accountability for something? And he waited for the perfect opportunity to where he could. It was like, I learned something in that moment. And I cherish that memory. Like, did it hurt my feelings? Oh, absolutely. Here's my idol, you know, somebody, my role model, somebody that I truly cherish and I look up to in so many different aspects and ways. And he's frustrated at me right now. That hurt. And then for him to turn around and actually give me an apology and own it, that gave me more respect for him. And he truly was a respected person, not just by me or by my family, but by everybody around him in the community. Because the type of person that he was. He wasn't always right. He knew he wasn't always right, but he'd own it. He'd be the first one to tell you, hey, sometimes I can be dumber than a box of rocks. You know? But I can teach you a couple of things if you just let me. And I feel that we as a whole have kind of gotten away from that in this world. You know, and I try to implement a little bit of what I learned from him growing up in my relationship with my children, because I'm not always right. I do have my moments where I snap. But one of the very first things I do when I do that is I apologize, you know, bringing it full circle. And then I let them know immediately that they are loved, because that's important. Having a child question whether or not their parent truly does care about them, that's a very hurtful thing for a lot of people. So you always have to reassure them and let them know that they are cared about. You do adore them. You don't want them feeling hurt, you know. But it's even more awesome when a child can come to you and openly communicate their hurt. Well, when you yelled at me, Dad, it hurt my feelings. Well, I'm very sorry about that. I didn't even think about it from your viewpoint. But I'll tell you what, I'll keep that in mind for next time I'm feeling frustrated and I start losing my temper.
I got a question.
I might have an answer.
You mentioned it was your grandfather that was this idol in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was frustrated with you, very clearly meant something to you. Like, hit the soul.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you remember it now, and you remember what it felt like, you remember what it did to you.
I could still smell the fumes coming off the exhaust of the truck.
Case in point. So, this idol was really important in your life. And you looked up to him and all those things. But what if, to bring it full circle, family, what if that family member, the one that looks up to you and sees you in that spot, is one that you have a hard time with and their influence in your life? That's a really hard dynamic. Where it's like, you are my idol.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
Well,
but I can't be too close around this. But then to feel that pain of a kid of like, this, my idol is pushing me away.
mm-hmm. Okay, well, I kind of have something for that. My cousin Lubin, God rest his soul, he's no longer here, unfortunately, due to some of his addictions. He idolized me. When I joined the Army, he's like, you know, oh my God, you're so important. And I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was just doing something I wanted to do, you know. And as he got older, he started becoming a little bit more rebellious. He didn't want to listen to instructions from others, you know. He didn't want to do what he was supposed to. He started kind of like, not necessarily becoming toxic, if that makes sense, but being around him was really difficult at times and frustrating, because here you're trying to help somebody that just has no freaking clue. And, you know, they're not going to get it because they've got to do it their way. Well, with those kinds of people, they're going to have to learn themselves. It's that whole analogy of leading the horse to water, you know. And when I got the news that he had passed, it stung so much because I had allowed such a great distance in time to overtake our relationship because of that very situation. That here he idolizes me, and I love and I cherish him very much, but I can't be a part of what he's doing, and I don't agree with his life choices. and I want him to figure it out. And it was so difficult for me because I kicked myself for the longest amount of time. At one point, he had asked me, and this is shortly after Cohen was born, he had asked if he could come and stay with me. And it was like, I'm sorry, dude, I can't, because what you might bring into my home, and I can't have that, like, at all. And because of the fact that you've lied to me in the past about things, I can't trust it either, you know. So there was a little bit of regret with that. And it took a long time for me to finally just accept the fact that he's his own person. He made his own decision. I can't control that. So for me to sit here and coulda, shoulda, woulda of a situation, it's not doing me any service. It's doing me more harm than anything. So be thankful that he's no longer in pain to the point to where he had to use. Cherish the memories that you have with him, and know that one day you will see him again. It might take a while, but you will see him again. And when you do see him again, you guys can, pull up and just hang out and have the time of your lives and catch up and stuff. And I truly do believe in afterlife like that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's a great reminder.
And I've had several dreams where he's visited me, and I have little reminders every now and then of him just around me, just his spirit, and it's one of those situations where you really wish you could have done more, but there's nothing more you could have done. When you boil it down, like, you can only offer so much. And if they're not willing to figure it out themselves, well, you kind of got to break away.
It's still going. That was golden. That was golden. This computer's at 4%.
Wow.
Speechless. We covered and you highlighted answers to really, really tough questions.
Well, I hope I was able to actually offer some pretty good insight.
Really good.
At the end of the day, if I can just be real enough and raw enough and offer insight and advice that's just like there, I know I've done my job as a person, as a fellow human being, and I'm sure I said it earlier in the podcast. My interactions in customer service, I know, can make or break a situation. That's why I chose to do what I do. That's why I chose to continue doing what I do instead of throwing in the towel, is because I know if somebody's having a bad day and they come in, and like I can read vibes very well. I mean, this. You've witnessed it firsthand. You've experienced it firsthand. And I'm my goofy self, and I crack some sort of stupid joke, or offer some sort of tidbit of, metaphor or analogy. I know that I've made an improvement on your day. Whereas before, you probably were at your wit's end with a situation. You were very frustrated. You didn't want to, you weren't motivated to go to work. And now I got you rejuiced up, and you're ready to go and start kicking the doors in and get your day done and over with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how I am today.
It's like you never know with people what kind of impact you're going to have until you have that impact. And that's why I try to be so fresh, so insightful. I have a big heart. I care about everybody. But one of the curses of having a big heart is you also hurt too. And when you hurt, you don't want to see anybody, like, you don't want anybody else to see that hurt or experience that pain.
Mhm.
You want to keep it to yourself. And hopefully you have somebody in your corner that's got a similar heart. So when they see that you're hurt, they can call you out and help take care of you and make sure you're good and you're right. Kind of like, you know, what I was talking about with that last video that I had posted. Like, you sometimes you just need 3 people in your corner that can look at you and be like, I know you're not okay, but it's okay because we're going to get you there and we're going to do it together.
Jeez.